Thank you very much. So, area-wide planning, instead of going to every farm and trying to change every farmer's mind, we developed an area-wide planning, which is probably the beginning of the environmental management plans as well, to take areas and take a group of farmers together, rather, and let them call the shots. So turning the whole thing around from where you've got a more bureaucratic approach to it, where you're telling them what to do, to rather where you're enabling them to do something which you hope will be very much in the conservation field. And it's astounding, the work that we've done by enabling farmers to do this. And all our partners are helping us, and you'll see some of them on the slides as well, to actually do this. And we're getting the results we're getting is fantastic. To effectively address so many of the concerns that we've got, and you'll see even from an international perspective. And if you're looking at 2030, where we have to change and we have to save so much soil, so many natural resources, we're not going to do it by just business as usual. We're going to have to look at some different way of doing it. And this is why we're looking at something like area-wide planning, and I'll show you a few of the groups do that. That's just to give you an idea of what LandCare does. I'm not going to sell LandCare today, but this is giving the themes of LandCare: water care, soil care, people care, conservation, agriculture. You imagine the Department of Agriculture doing people care, you know, something new for us. Especially if you come with an engineering background, you have to now work with people. What, do you have to listen to them as well? Yeah. So thank you for telling us that we have to speak to trees. So this is the tree I took outside my hut last night, and I was speaking to it. So if you think I'm gone this morning, it probably am, but I'm feeling much better than before I spoke to it. So if you look at that tree and look at that beard, and you compare it with that one, which one would you prefer? I think I would go for that one. That really looks good. Eh? This one's a bit too busy maybe. But the idea is to take our first LandCare Areawide Planning, wasn't 80,000, it was a little bit less than that, but we're taking it. We want to take it from 80,000 hectares up to 1 million hectares, and even beyond that. And we're going to get that. I'm sure we're going to get there. The thing is, if you're speaking with farmers, then you must keep this in mind, because you really, if you're not going to have action on the ground, you can forget it. You need action, and I'll show you the action that we do. So this also comes from the Biodiversity Credits, one of the private companies in Africa, saying that collectively we have to do it. The people on the ground, those communities must choose their geographical area, and they must choose their priorities, and we must support those. And in most cases, it might not be something to do with agriculture, but those that are with conservation or natural resources, those ones we must support to make it work. So there are some examples of them. You can see there's about 30, I think, examples of that. The closest one that we're working with, I couldn't get to it yesterday because I had meetings. I couldn't go paddling with you guys. I'm sorry, but is this West Heads Conservancy over here. Also looking at biodiversity credits to try and get that going. And in 2 weeks' time, we are going to be at Lammersfontein in the Laingsburg, in the upper part of the Laingsburg, looking at a massive one over there. And so we've got a whole lot of examples of doing that. I'll just go through a few of them. The Groenlandberg, Groenland, is the one up at Gebou. And their Water Users Association never had anybody looking at aliens or looking at waters. And now they've got 8 funds. They've got one person doing it full-time, and they've got 8 funds funding them to look at the strategic water resource area of the city of Cape Town, and for their own use. You can't believe it, from 0 to 1. They don't allow even one of those honeysuckers to come and drink water with if it doesn't have a permit. They really control every single step in that area. Can you understand that chairperson, when they sign off those financial reports, he goes through every single expenditure. He's internalized every single thing they're doing. So I asked him the other day, would you be able to assist us, because Hangklip doesn't have a water users association? Would you be able to assist us? Yes, he says, it's part of our conservancy, therefore we may do. So you can understand the mindset of a farmer going from just looking at his farm to his group of farmers to even the surrounding area. It gives a completely another, it's like a super official working for the Department of Agriculture, together with Sandparks and Cape Nature, all there, right there in that thing. So you want something done, that's the place that you can go. So that's the Kroonland one, the Upper Berg. If you take it from Witbrug, you know, Ceres, you've got that white bridge. You take it from there all the way down to Worcester to the Bruntvlei Dam. That is 75 kilometers. It's completely cleared. It was 100% infested with alien vegetation, mainly black wattle and blue gum. It had a canopy of 100%. There was just nothing but that. They've completely transformed that thing. They're replanting. Last year we planted 100,000 plants, trees in that area, and most of them have been irrigated. To get it right, it was the French company supported us. To get it right, we had to reclassify palmite as a tree because it's higher than 2 meters, because it's definitely the one that we want to plant over there. So we did that. So it's all hunky-dory, and there we're going. It goes into a wetland of the Apnekis. That wetland is about 730 hectares. It's under a stewardship contract, so that it's never going to be cultivated. Every single liter of water that passes that wetland is filtered by that wetland. When it comes out on the other side, it looks like Coca-Cola. If you compare it to the water that comes from the Bruntvlei Dam that looks like milk, it's like chalk and cheese. You cannot believe it. That this wetland, which didn't cost us not so much, stores a third of the water that's in the Berg River Dam that cost millions. So you understand the importance when you look at it on the ground and you bring your theory that you've been talking about and you bring it into practice, you can really see these things really do make sense. They do work. So it's a fantastic, a Grootvader's Bos. I can't believe it. The other day I went to look at them. They were hanging down cliffs, cleaning aliens down cliffs at the Correntefette Dam. Unbelievable, the work that was being doing. They go to a farmer. If the farmer doesn't put down his money, 30,000 rand, he does not take part in the project. He's not part of it. We don't want him. If the Water Users Association doesn't give 10%, they're not going to work there. You understand where you get that buy-in? It's a hard lesson. But the control is on the ground. That control is in the farmer's hands, where he can say, this is my priority. Obviously, the drought was a fantastic help. It made everybody's mind change. And now we've got the war, which has brought fertilizer prices increased by 100%. What did that do? Escalates biological soil enhancement and charcoal, everything by 100%. Every farmer is using a biological solution. It's fantastic. I'll show you a few examples. The COPE project is one of the first ones. I'll show you just now, but the COPE 4 one was a gold standard, and we got it in the book for the LandCare book, international booklet on the gold standard of Areawide Planning. Those guys, I'll show you just now if I've got enough time, they've done all the research that in most districts haven't even taken place. And that's just because the farmers were in control. And they said to me, Francis, the second meeting, did you invite the extension officer or the guy from Cape Nature? I said to them, look, I'm not in charge here. If you don't invite them and you don't invite me, I don't come to the meeting. You're in charge. You invite the people. And from that day onwards, they had research from France, UCT, did some fantastic work on the social side, on the farm workers, and so forth. And they brought that forward. And then the other one is the COPE 4. We had a farmer's day the other day. They've got one person that's in charge of infrastructure, looking at the fencing and the roads. Got another person in charge of the cameras. They've set up cameras in the whole area that they can look at after security. And they've got a lady that's in charge of the training of the farm workers. So every 6 months they get together and have a training day for the farm workers. And they take that further. How can you imagine something like that would happen if you didn't empower the people on the ground? And now they're going to make it a special management area. So they're going to take that land of theirs and put it in a title deed forever. Right, I'll give you a few photographs. I think by now you must be sick of listening to all the voice. So you can see before and after, and this has to mean, you can see all the stumps. That's what it looked like. It's 100%. If you get that out, it's going to be clean. That's the product that we're making. 5 minutes. That's a product, a hardwood. It's very seldom you'll get a hardwood of that quality. That's a special management area. Fantastic stuff, man. You cannot believe, I didn't believe we could get there. How can we get there that those farmers in the Karoo want to make a special management area? But it is their priority, not our priority. There's one thing in Worcester, Climate Smart. You can see they've got the 360 award. They're making steam out of energy, and you can see it's by far the cheapest. This was before the petrol price went up. So we're already looking at replacing coal in all the hospitals in the Western Cape by using chips. Those are the chips that we use. We want them in agriculture back in the soil to build the soil fertility. There you can see the soil fertility. This is very weak. After farming for 150 years, it shouldn't be there. And there it is in its natural state or regenerative state. It's over there. So it's absolutely fantastic that we can measure the biology in the soil. It's something that really makes a difference. 100,000 plants planted last year. You see them here? Each one of the dripper line, after each dripper, there's a plant that has been planted. Okay, that's just to brag a bit with our budget. Luckily, we've been supported tremendously in the last 5 years from provincial treasury as well as national treasury. So we got about 9 million rand for each one of the rural districts that we can do works from different funding sources and also different criteria. So then I'll come back to this one. I'll be finishing off now. It's just to show you the Cope one, and you know, that area has been under drought for 8 years. And you would think that this area-wide planning would have died. It's just got stronger. The farmers got together a lot more. They made plans to see how they can add value, how they can assist one another in the drought. And they're taking it on further. They've got at least hope. They're not just opening the door and looking at this massive drought that's been carrying on for 8 years. They're looking at hope. What are they going to do? How are they going to solve this problem? Which makes a very big difference. That's their emblem. This is Piet Gous. He's a farmer. He said, if you guys from Cape Nature and julle groenes, if you guys, and he's pointing his finger to me as well, you have to be together with the farmer to look for a solution. You cannot be you sitting on one side and we sitting with our plans on another side. It must be one. That's the Cope area. You can see Beaufort West to thing. It's quite a large area. That's the area that the Cope project, the first one, had inside it. That's farm planning. These are just our principles. I'd just like to highlight the one. Blending upper level policy with ground level. I can tell you now, any one of those projects, I can show you the work that's done. I can take a golden thread and I can take it all the way up to province, national, and to international convention to combat desertification. So this is why it works. As our partners, this is some of the projects they did in that area. And you cannot believe it, that a farmer will actually tag, he'd put a collar on a jackal, and he'd assist with the whole process and do the research to see exactly what is the behavior of that thing. And then they're starting to realize, but they had a completely different approach. They must look at this in another style. And so we're looking at other types of solutions, even lamb export, farmer training, fencing, dogs, the works. That's the type of work, one of the fences that they've put up there. Okay, it's not very friendly from an environmental point of view, but from an agricultural point of view, it's very, very effective. It's also a very soft method of controlling aliens. Rooikat and jackal. This is the one that we want to use to scale up. As I said, we want to link very closely to United Nations. This is just to give you the next few area-wide plannings. They're different areas. Nelspoort, there's another part of Nelspoort, Driehoeksfontein, Lower Buffalo River, and it links 100% with our smart agri process. And that's the team. I can tell you at the conference, there's not a prize that we didn't take in the Western Cape, and as because the team is so passionate. Thank you very much.